Have you ever felt like you're barely holding it together? Like no matter how hard you try, the weight just keeps growing heavier. You smile through the day, but inside, you're exhausted. Your mind won't stop spinning. Your heart feels empty even when you're surrounded by people. You search for happiness in the next achievement, the next relationship, the next moment of peace, but it never stays. And you wonder, quietly, if this ache will ever stop, if you'll ever feel okay again. Here's what most people don't realize. The pain you feel is not coming from life itself. It's not the circumstances, the people, or the things that went wrong. It's coming from the way your mind holds on too tightly, resists what is, and fights against the very flow of life. It's the clinging, the overthinking, the belief that happiness exists somewhere outside you, waiting to be found. And that's where the suffering lives, not in the world, but in how you meet it. Buddhism, at its heart, offers something quiet and powerful. Not rules to follow or beliefs to adopt, but a way of seeing, a way of being that dissolves the struggle from within. It teaches you how to stop fighting and start flowing, how to quiet the noise, how to build a happiness so steady that nothing outside you can shake it. Imagine a version of yourself that no longer crumbles when life shifts. Someone who feels pain but isn't destroyed by it. Someone who loves deeply but doesn't lose themselves. Someone whose peace comes from within, unshaken by approval, rejection, or change. That version of you already exists. It's just buried under everything you've been carrying that was never yours to hold. In this video, you're going to learn how to find that person, how to stay happy and positive, not by controlling life, but by mastering the one thing you've always had power over, your own mind. Lesson 1. Happiness is created within, not found outside. Have you ever noticed how you keep searching for happiness in the next moment, the next person, the next achievement, believing that once you get there, once you have that, once someone loves you the way you want, then finally you will feel complete? But the moment arrives and the emptiness returns. The promotion doesn't fill the void. The relationship doesn't erase the loneliness. The validation doesn't silence the inner critic. And you're left wondering why nothing outside you ever feels like enough. Here's the truth. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Happiness is not hiding somewhere out there waiting for you to find it. It is not a reward for good behavior, a prize for hard work, or a gift someone else can hand you. Happiness is something you build from within, brick by brick, especially when life is breaking you apart. The Buddha once said, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may." We ourselves must walk the path. This means your peace, your joy, your emotional freedom. It all begins inside you, not in the world around you. Think about it. How many times have you placed your happiness in someone else's hands only to watch them drop it? How many times have you told yourself, "I'll be happy when I get that job, when I lose that weight, when I move to that city," only to arrive and realize the feeling you craved never came with the destination? This is because you were taught to seek happiness externally. You were taught that joy comes from achievement, love comes from validation, and peace comes from control. But no one ever taught you how to create happiness from the quiet, steady strength within your own heart. When life hurts the most, when you lose what you thought defined you, when people walk away, when plans collapse, that is not the moment happiness abandons you. That is the moment happiness reveals where it has always lived, inside you, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, waiting for you to stop searching and start building. Happiness is not something you wait for. It is something you choose, cultivate, and protect, no matter what storms arrive. It is the light you keep burning even when the world goes dark. It is the calm you create even when everything outside you is chaos. And the moment you understand this, the moment you stop looking outward and start turning inward, your entire life begins to change. Lesson 2. Presence is the foundation of inner peace. How much of your suffering exists only in your mind? Think about it. Right now, in this exact moment, are you truly in danger? Or are you replaying a conversation from last week, rewriting what you should have said, punishing yourself for mistakes that cannot be undone? Or perhaps you're living 3 months ahead, worrying about outcomes that haven't happened, fearing losses that may never come, rehearsing disasters that exist only in your imagination. Your body is here, but your mind is everywhere else. And that split, that disconnection between where you are and where your thoughts have wandered, that is where suffering grows. Buddhism teaches something profoundly simple yet deeply challenging. The present moment is the only place where peace can exist. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, but right here, right now. The past is a memory you can no longer change. The future is a story you haven't lived yet. But this moment, this breath, this heartbeat, this is where life is actually happening. And when you're not here to meet it, you miss the only reality you will ever have. Most people walk through their days like ghosts, physically present but mentally absent. You eat without tasting, you listen without hearing, you look without seeing. Your mind is so busy chasing what was or what might be that you forget to live what is. You sit with someone you love, but your thoughts are tangled in tomorrow's problems. You achieve something meaningful, but your mind is already racing toward the next goal, never pausing to feel the joy of now. And in this constant mental escape, peace slips through your fingers like water. There's an old Zen story about a student who asked his master, "What is the secret to happiness?" The master replied, "When I eat, I eat. When I walk, I walk. When I sit, I sit." The student, confused, said, "But I do that too. What's so special?" The master smiled and said, "No. When you eat, you think. When you walk, you plan. When you sit, you worry. That is the difference. The difference between suffering and peace is presence. It is the ability to be fully where you are, without your mind dragging you into places that no longer exist or places that may never exist. When you bring your full awareness to this moment, something miraculous happens. The weight of regret softens, the grip of anxiety loosens. You realize that right now, in this breath, you are okay. Not perfect, not without problems, but okay. And that okayness, that simple recognition that you are here, alive, breathing, capable of this moment, that is the foundation of inner peace. Peace is not found by fixing the past or controlling the future. Peace is found by returning, again and again, to now. Lesson 3. Let go of emotional weight that is not yours. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself whose pain you are carrying? Not just your own struggles, your own fears, your own disappointments, but the weight of everyone else's expectations, judgments, unspoken demands, and unresolved wounds. You carry your mother's worries as if they were your responsibility. You absorb your partner's moods as if their unhappiness is your failure. You hold on to a friend's criticism as if their opinion defines your worth. You replay harsh words from years ago, spoken by people who have long moved on, yet you still carry their voices like stones in your chest. And slowly, without realizing it, You've become a storage room for everyone else's emotional baggage. The truth is, much of the pain you feel is not even yours. It's borrowed, it's inherited, it's absorbed from people who never learned how to process their own suffering, so they unconsciously handed it to you. And because you care, because you want to help, because you were taught that love means carrying others, you accepted it. You took on their disappointments, their frustrations, their fears, their unmet needs. You shaped yourself around their expectations, shrinking parts of who you are to make room for what they wanted you to be. And now you're exhausted, weighed down by burdens that were never meant for you to carry. Buddhism teaches that suffering often comes from clinging to what does not belong to us. You cling to someone else's vision of who you should be. You cling to the belief that you are responsible for fixing everyone's pain. You cling to guilt over things you didn't cause, shame over standards you didn't create, and pressure to meet goals that were never truly yours. But here's what you need to understand. Their expectations are not your prison. Their judgments are not your truth. Their emotional wounds are not your responsibility to heal. You can love people without carrying their weight. You can care deeply without losing yourself in their chaos. There's a story of two monks walking through the forest when they came upon a woman struggling to cross a muddy river. One monk carried her across, set her down gently on the other side, and continued walking. Hours later, the second monk, still troubled, finally said, "We are not supposed to touch women. Why did you carry her?" The first monk looked at him calmly and replied, "I set her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This is what most people do. They carry things long after the moment has passed. They hold on to words that were never meant to last, emotions that don't belong to them, and burdens they were never asked to bear. Happiness begins the moment you decide to set down what is not yours. You stop absorbing everyone's energy. You stop twisting yourself to meet impossible standards. You stop apologizing for boundaries that protect your peace. You begin to ask yourself, is this mine to carry? And if the answer is no, you let it go, not with anger, not with guilt, but with the quiet understanding that you were never meant to hold the world on your shoulders. Lesson 4. Acceptance is freedom, not weakness. How much energy do you waste fighting reality? Think about it. Someone hurt you, and you keep replaying the moment, wishing it had gone differently. A relationship ended, and you're stuck arguing with the past, convinced that if you resist hard enough, somehow the outcome will change. Life didn't unfold the way you planned, and instead of adapting, you're standing in the middle of the storm, fists clenched, shouting at the rain to stop. But the rain doesn't care about your anger. The past doesn't rewrite itself because you refuse to let go. And all that resistance, all that fighting against what already is, it doesn't change a single thing. It only deepens your suffering. Most people confuse acceptance with weakness. They think accepting something means surrendering, giving up, or pretending it doesn't hurt. But that's not what acceptance is. Acceptance is not approval. It's not saying, "This is fine," when it's not fine. It's not pretending you weren't hurt when the wound is still bleeding. Acceptance is simply this. It is the courageous decision to stop fighting with reality and start facing it as it is. It is the moment you stop wasting your energy on battles you cannot win and redirect that energy toward healing, growth, and moving forward. Buddhism teaches that resistance is the root of unnecessary suffering. When you resist what is, you create a war inside yourself. You split your energy between two worlds, the world as it is and the world as you wish it were. and that split exhausts you. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot grow if you're stuck arguing with the past. You cannot find peace if you're constantly demanding that life should have been different. The truth is, life doesn't wait for your permission to unfold. It moves, it changes, it breaks, it rebuilds, whether you accept it or not. The only question is, will you flow with it or drown fighting against it? There's an old teaching that says, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Pain is what happens when life strikes you, when loss arrives, when disappointment lands at your door. But suffering is what you add to pain through resistance, through the endless replaying, the clinging, the refusal to let what happened simply be what happened. Acceptance doesn't erase the pain. It stops you from multiplying it. It allows the wound to breathe instead of suffocating under layers of denial, anger, and bitterness. When you accept what is, something shifts. Your mind stops spinning in circles. Your heart stops aching over things you cannot undo. You stop exhausting yourself with questions that have no answers. Why me? Why this? Why now? Instead, you begin asking better questions. What can I learn? How can I grow? Where do I go from here? Acceptance doesn't mean you stop wanting things to be better. It means you stop punishing yourself for what already happened. It means you give yourself permission to let go of the fight, to release the grip, to finally breathe again. And in that release, clarity arrives, healing begins, freedom becomes possible. Lesson 5. You are not your thoughts. Awareness is power. How often do you believe every thought that crosses your mind? A thought whispers, "You're not good enough," and suddenly your entire sense of worth collapses. A thought says, "They don't care about you," and you spiral into loneliness even though no one actually said those words. A thought screams, "Everything is falling apart," and you panic over problems that haven't even happened yet. Your thoughts paint vivid stories, and without questioning them, you accept those stories as truth. You let them dictate your emotions, control your behavior, and shape your reality. But here's what most people never realize. Your thoughts are not facts. They are just mental events, passing clouds in the sky of your mind. And you are the sky, not the clouds. Buddhism teaches a profound truth that changes everything once you understand it. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes them. Think about it. If you can notice a thought, if you can watch it arise and fade, then you must be something beyond that thought. You are the quiet witness, the steady presence behind the noise. But most people live their entire lives completely identified with their thinking. They don't observe their thoughts. They become their thoughts. And that identification creates endless suffering. Your mind is powerful, but it is also untrained. It generates thousands of thoughts every day, most of them repetitive, negative, and completely disconnected from reality. Your mind loves to catastrophize. It replays old wounds. It invents future disasters. It judges, compares, criticizes, and creates fear where none exists. And if you believe every thought without questioning it, you become a prisoner of your own mind. You live in a reality shaped by mental stories rather than what is actually true. There's a difference between thinking and awareness. Thinking is automatic, reactive, often rooted in fear and past conditioning. Awareness is spacious, calm, and clear. Awareness doesn't fight thoughts. It simply watches them. Imagine sitting by a river, watching leaves float by. Some leaves are beautiful, some are ugly, but you don't jump into the water to grab them or push them away. You just watch. That's what awareness does with thoughts. It observes without attachment. It notices without judgment. And in that space between thought and reaction, freedom is born. When you learn to step back and observe your thoughts instead of drowning in them, everything changes. A thought says, "You're a failure." And instead of collapsing, you pause and think, "That's just a thought. It's not the truth." A thought says, "This will never get better." And instead of believing it, you recognize it as fear speaking, not reality. You begin to see that most of your suffering is self-created, built on thoughts you never questioned, stories you never examined, beliefs you inherited without ever asking if they were true. The Buddha once said, "We are what we think." All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. But he didn't say you are your thoughts. He said your thoughts shape your world, which means you have the power to choose which thoughts you give energy to and which ones you let pass like clouds. Awareness is your greatest power. It is the ability to observe your mind instead of being controlled by it. And when you master this, when you learn to watch your thoughts without believing all of them, you reclaim your freedom. Lesson 6. Protect your emotional energy. Have you ever noticed how certain people leave you feeling drained, as if they've taken something from you without asking? You spend time with them, and afterward, you feel heavier, more tired, less like yourself. Or perhaps it's not a person, but a situation, a toxic environment, a constant stream of negativity that you expose yourself to day after day, believing you have no choice. You scroll through anger and outrage online. You stay in conversations that tear you down. You allow people to dump their chaos into your life without ever setting a boundary. And slowly, without realizing it, your inner peace begins to erode. You wonder why you feel so exhausted, so overwhelmed, so empty. The answer is simple. You've been giving your emotional energy away to people and places that do not deserve it. Your emotional energy is not unlimited. It is not something you can afford to waste on everything and everyone. Think of it as your inner climate, the atmosphere of your soul. When you protect it, when you guard it carefully, your inner world remains calm, clear, and steady. But when you leave the doors wide open, when you let anyone walk in and disturb your peace, your inner climate becomes stormy, chaotic, unstable. Buddhism teaches that protecting your peace is not selfish, it is sacred. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot help others if you are broken yourself. You cannot carry light into the world if your own flame has been extinguished. Most people were taught that being kind means being available to everyone, all the time. They were taught that love means tolerating disrespect, that loyalty means sacrificing their own well-being, that boundaries are cold or unkind. But that is not wisdom. That is self-destruction. Real kindness begins with honoring yourself. Real love includes self-respect. Real strength is knowing when to walk away, when to say no, when to close the door on people who constantly drain you without ever filling you back up. There's a story about a farmer who had a beautiful garden. One day, he noticed his vegetables were dying, and he couldn't understand why. Then he realized, every night, wild animals were breaking through his fence and destroying his crops. He didn't hate the animals. He didn't fight them. He simply built a stronger fence. Protecting what matters to you is not cruelty. It is wisdom. You don't need to explain your boundaries. You don't need to justify your peace. You simply need to guard it. So ask yourself, Who has access to your emotional energy? Who do you allow into your inner world? Are they people who lift you up, support your growth, and respect your peace? Or are they people who constantly take, complain, criticize, and demand without ever giving anything back? Are the environments you place yourself in nourishing your spirit or draining it? Are the conversations you engage in building you or breaking you? You have the power to choose. You have the right to protect yourself. Stop apologizing for setting boundaries. Stop feeling guilty for walking away from negativity. Stop letting people guilt you into staying in spaces that hurt your soul. Your peace is not a place where everyone gets a free pass. Your emotional energy is precious, and you decide who gets to access it. Protect it fiercely, guard it carefully, and give it only to those who honor it. Because when you protect your emotional energy, you protect your happiness, your clarity, and your ability to show up as your best self. Lesson 7. Stop resisting pain flow with life. Why do you fight so hard against pain? The moment sadness arrives, you push it away. When fear knocks on your door, you pretend it's not there. When disappointment surfaces, you bury it under distractions, under work, under noise, hoping that if you ignore it long enough, it will disappear. But it doesn't disappear. It grows, it festers, it waits in the shadows until one day it becomes so heavy you can no longer carry it. And then you wonder why you feel so broken, so overwhelmed, so stuck. The truth is, pain didn't break you. Resisting pain did. Buddhism teaches something most people find difficult to accept. Pain is a natural part of life. But suffering is what you create when you resist that pain. Pain is like a wave in the ocean. It rises, it peaks, and then it falls. It comes, it passes, and it moves on. But when you fight the wave, when you tense your body and try to push it back, you exhaust yourself. You make the experience harder than it needs to be. The wave was always going to pass. The only question is, will you let it move through you, or will you drown fighting against it? Think about the last time you felt emotional pain. Did you allow yourself to feel it fully, or did you immediately start running? You distracted yourself, numbed yourself, or told yourself you shouldn't feel this way. You resisted the sadness because you feared it would consume you. You avoided the grief because you thought it would never end. But here's what happens when you resist. The emotion doesn't leave. It stays trapped inside you, waiting for permission to be felt. And the longer you hold it in, the heavier it becomes. There's a story of a student who came to a master, crying, "Master, I am in so much pain. How do I make it stop?" The master handed him a cup of salt and said, "Put this in a glass of water and drink it." The student did, and it tasted bitter. Then the master said, "Now put the same amount of salt in the river and drink from it." The student did, and this time the water tasted fresh. The master smiled and said, "The pain is the same. But when you are a glass, rigid and small, the pain overwhelms you. When you become the river, spacious and flowing, the pain moves through you without breaking you. This is the lesson. Stop being the glass. Become the river. When you stop resisting pain, when you allow emotions to come and go naturally, something beautiful happens. The pain doesn't destroy you. It moves. It shifts. It passes. You realize that sadness is just sadness, not a life sentence. Fear is just fear, not a fact. Disappointment is just disappointment, not your identity. You begin to understand that emotions are visitors, not permanent residents. They come, they teach, and they leave, but only if you stop holding them hostage with resistance. Life is not meant to be controlled. It is meant to be lived, experienced, felt. When you try to force outcomes, when you demand that life unfold exactly the way you planned, you create suffering. But when you flow with life, when you allow it to move, shift, surprise, and change you, you discover a deeper kind of peace. A peace that doesn't depend on everything going right. A peace that remains steady even when things fall apart. Stop resisting. Stop fighting. Let the pain come. Let it move. Let it go. And in that surrender, you will find the freedom you've been searching for. Lesson 8. Healing begins when you face yourself. How long have you been running from yourself? You keep yourself busy, endlessly scrolling, constantly working, filling every silent moment with noise because you're terrified of what might surface if you stop. You avoid the mirror. You dodge the difficult questions. You push down the emotions that knock at your heart, pretending that if you ignore them long enough, they'll quietly disappear. But they don't disappear. They settle deeper. They build walls inside you. They turn into numbness, into exhaustion, into a quiet ache that never quite goes away. And one day you realize the person you've been running from the most is yourself. The truth is, you cannot heal what you refuse to face. You cannot mend wounds you pretend don't exist. You cannot grow past pain you won't acknowledge. Healing doesn't begin when life gets easier, when someone finally understands you, or when the circumstances change. Healing begins the moment you stop running and courageously sit with everything you've been avoiding. The fear, the sadness, the shame, the anger, the disappointment, all of it. It begins when you look at your own reflection, not with judgment, but with compassion, and say, I see you. I've been running from you, but I'm here now. Buddhism teaches that the only way out is through. There is no shortcut around your pain. You cannot skip chapters and expect the story to make sense. You have to walk through the fire to reach the other side. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it hurts. But sitting with your emotions, truly feeling them without distraction, without escape, that is where transformation happens. When you stop labeling feelings as bad or wrong and simply let them be, they lose their power over you. You realize that fear is just a sensation in your body. Sadness is just energy moving through you. Shame is just a story you've been telling yourself for far too long. There's a powerful story of a warrior who was terrified of a demon that haunted him every night. The demon's presence paralyzed him with fear. One night, exhausted from running, the warrior finally turned to face the demon. He looked it straight in the eyes and said, I see you. I'm not running anymore. And in that moment, the demon began to shrink. It became smaller and smaller until it was nothing more than a shadow. The lesson is clear. What you resist persists. What you face dissolves. Your fears only have the power you give them by running away. Healing also means forgiving yourself for being human. You carry so much guilt for your mistakes, so much shame for your imperfections, so much regret for the choices you made when you didn't know better. But you were doing the best you could with the awareness you had at the time. You were surviving, not thriving. You were wounded, not whole. And if you keep punishing yourself for being imperfect, you will never heal. Forgiveness is not saying, it didn't matter. Forgiveness is saying, it happened, I learned, and I'm choosing to move forward without carrying this weight anymore. When you finally stop running, when you sit with yourself in all your messy, broken, beautiful humanity, something shifts. The pain doesn't consume you. It softens. The fear doesn't destroy you. It teaches you. The sadness doesn't define you. It deepens you. And slowly, gently, quietly, you begin to heal. Not because life became perfect, but because you became brave enough to face yourself. Lesson 9. Gratitude transforms suffering into strength. When life hurts the most, gratitude feels impossible. How can you be grateful when you've lost something precious? How can you find appreciation when your heart is breaking? How can you focus on what you have when all you can see is what's been taken from you? Most people think gratitude is something you practice only when life is easy, when everything is going well, when you have reasons to smile. But that's not when gratitude matters most. Gratitude becomes most powerful precisely when life is hardest, because it shifts your focus from what is missing to what still remains, from what you've lost to what you still hold. Let's be clear about something. Gratitude is not toxic positivity. It is not pretending everything is fine when it's not. It is not denying your pain, bypassing your grief, or telling yourself to just be grateful when your heart is breaking. That's not gratitude, that's avoidance. Real gratitude doesn't erase suffering, it transforms it. It doesn't ask you to ignore what's wrong, it asks you to notice what's still right, even in the middle of the storm. Buddhism teaches that where attention goes, energy flows. If you spend all your time focusing on what's missing, what's broken, what you've lost, your entire world becomes defined by lack. Your mind builds a story around scarcity, and soon that story becomes your reality. But when you shift your attention, even slightly, toward what remains, what still holds meaning, what still brings light into your life, something powerful happens. The pain doesn't disappear, but it no longer consumes you. You begin to see that even in the midst of loss, there is still life. Even in the midst of grief, there is still love. Even in the hardest seasons, there are still small moments worth holding on to. There's a story of a monk who lost everything in a fire. His home, his belongings, all gone. A visitor came and said, "I'm so sorry for your loss. You must be devastated." The monk smiled gently and replied, "I am grateful the fire taught me how little I actually needed." This is not denial, this is perspective. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, it shifts your gaze. It asks you to look at what remains when everything else falls away. And what remains is often more than you realized. When you practice gratitude, you are not pretending everything is fine. You are choosing to see the whole picture. Yes, life hurt you. Yes, things didn't go as planned. Yes, you lost something or someone important. But you are still here. You are still breathing. You still have the capacity to feel, to hope, to grow. And that, in itself, is something worth honoring. Gratitude builds emotional resilience because it trains your mind to look for what is still good, even when life is hard. It doesn't ignore your pain. It holds your pain in one hand and your blessings in the other. And it says, both are real, both matter. But I choose not to let the pain blind me to what I still have. When you practice gratitude, you stop being a victim of circumstance and become a student of life. And in that shift, suffering transforms into strength. Lesson 10. Detachment and inner stillness make happiness unshakable. What if everything you've been chasing, the success, the approval, the perfect relationship, the security, what if none of it could ever give you lasting peace? You work harder, achieve more, prove yourself over and over, yet the satisfaction fades within days. You gain someone's approval, but then you need it again and again to feel worthy. You reach a goal, but immediately your mind sets another one. leaving you perpetually unsatisfied. And you wonder why happiness always feels just out of reach, why peace feels like something you had for a moment but could never hold. The answer is simple but difficult to accept. You've been building your happiness on shifting ground, on things that change, things you cannot control, things that were never meant to carry the weight of your peace. Buddhism teaches that true happiness does not come from adding more to your life. It comes from letting go. Not letting go of caring, not letting go of dreams, but letting go of the belief that your peace depends on external conditions, staying exactly as you want them. Detachment is not coldness. It is not indifference. It is freedom. It is the understanding that you can love deeply without clinging. You can work hard without tying your worth to outcomes. You can desire things without falling apart if they don't arrive. You can care about people without needing them to complete you. Think about water. When you try to hold it tightly in your fist, it slips through your fingers. But when you cup your hands gently, it stays. That's detachment. It's not about pushing life away. It's about holding it lightly, allowing it to flow, trusting that what is meant for you will remain without force, and what leaves was never yours to keep. The more you cling, the more you suffer. The more you release, the more you breathe. Inner stillness is the foundation of unshakable happiness. It is the calm center that remains steady no matter what storms arrive outside. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control their external world, believing that if they can just arrange everything perfectly, then they will finally feel at peace. But life doesn't work that way. People change, plans fall apart, circumstances shift. And if your peace depends on everything staying in place, you will live in constant anxiety, constantly trying to hold the world together with your bare hands. But when you build happiness from within, when you cultivate a quiet, steady center that does not depend on approval, achievement, or control, something extraordinary happens. You become unshakable, not because life stops challenging you, but because your peace is no longer at the mercy of external conditions. You can lose and still feel whole. You can be rejected and still know your worth. You can fail and still move forward with grace. You stop needing the world to behave a certain way for you to feel okay. And in that freedom, you discover what you've been searching for all along, a happiness that nothing outside you can destroy. So here you are, at the end of this journey, but also at the beginning of something far more important, the journey back to yourself. You've learned that happiness is not something you chase in the world outside. It is something you build, quietly and patiently, in the stillness within. You've learned that peace does not come from controlling life, but from learning how to flow with it. You've learned that freedom is not the absence of pain, but the presence of awareness, the ability to observe your thoughts instead of being consumed by them. But understand this, healing is not a straight line. It does not happen all at once. You will not wake up tomorrow completely transformed, suddenly free from every old pattern, every wound, every fear. Healing unfolds in layers. Some days you will feel strong, steady, and clear. Other days you will stumble, doubt yourself, and wonder if anything has changed at all. That is normal. That is human. Growth is not about perfection. It is about returning, again and again, to the practices that ground you, to the awareness that frees you, to the stillness that holds you when everything else falls apart. Cultivate your inner stillness the way a gardener tends a garden. Water it with presence. Protect it with boundaries. Let go of the weeds that drain your peace. And trust that even when you cannot see the growth happening, it is happening beneath the surface, roots deepening, strength building, resilience forming. Do not rush this process. Do not judge yourself for needing time. Healing is not a race. It is a homecoming. Freedom begins the moment you stop believing every thought that crosses your mind and start observing them with gentle awareness. You are not your fears. You are not your doubts. You are not the voice that tells you you're not enough. You are the quiet presence behind all of that, the awareness that watches, the stillness that remains when everything else fades. And when you remember this, when you return to this truth again and again, you discover something extraordinary. Nothing outside you was ever meant to complete you. You were always whole. You were always enough. You just forgot for a while. Now, as you step forward from here, carry this with you. Your peace is your power. Protect it. Honor it. Build your life around it. And when life hurts, when the world feels heavy, return to the stillness within. That is where your strength lives. That is where your freedom waits. Before you go, I want to hear from you. What is one word that describes how you're feeling right now after this journey? Just one word. Leave it in the comments below.